Welcome everyone to our episode 126 of our podcast. In today's episode, I have an honor guest, Jan Jeremias, and we are going to talk about earthing, about healing, about grounding, all of those techniques that are really helpful today because we are so connected with devices, but so disconnected with our own energy, our own Mother Earth, and we need to take back and to reclaim that energy. So, healing, grounding techniques for a modern world. We are going to discuss about that topic with Jan. Thank you, Jan, for being here. It's a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much, David, for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks. And Jan is a compassionate health coach and best-selling author of Spoil Your Pet, embodies a holistic approach to well-being, drawing from 3 decades of experience and personal health challenges. Jan advocates for an integrative approach rooted in nutrition, movement, yoga, essential oils, and meditation. United in her mission to empower individuals and animals on their path to vibrant health, Yang weaves together a tapestry of holistic practices, believing in the interconnectedness of body, mind, and spirit. Her background in science, her deep understanding of Eastern modalities, and passion for essential oils enrich her approach, allowing her to connect with the chakras, the subtle energy centers that govern our being. By aligning with the Earth's vibrational field and the natural rhythms of the season, Yang guides others in attuning their energy to the cycles of creation. Jan offers a range of services, including one-on-one health coaching, essential oil consultations, nutritional consultations, private and group yoga sessions, and meditation workshops, and retreats for individuals and corporations. Her heartfelt companionship transcends mere guidance, offering unwavering support for holistic well-being across species, boundaries, whether online or in person. Her wisdom spans continents, touching lives and fostering harmony within all beings. Thank you, Jan.
Oh, thank you, David.
So we are going to discuss this topic of earthing and how we can really reconnect that energy and align our energy centers with the earth. So my first question would be, how would you define this phenomena that happens when we allow ourselves to ground with the earth?
Um, I, th I think of grounding in two ways.
Mhm.
I think of grounding as to connecting deep within yourself, kind of calming your thoughts, your emotions. And so for a lot of practitioners, let's say of yoga or meditation, I think we connect that grounding to a feeling of embodiment and um, getting in touch with the deeper recesses of ourselves. But the other aspect of grounding is the one you mentioned, and that is our connection to the earth, which, or to our planet. And it's not necessarily the ground itself, even though that is grounding and we have those benefits. Those benefits can also be found spending time in water, especially like natural waters, which are things like the ocean or the beach, where we have the minerals of the earth that actually are circulating or that are part of the water experience or part of the water, and we expose ourselves that way. Because I think of people thinking of grounded or being grounded as, okay, like I'm going to go, which it is, I'm going to go stick my feet on the ground, which is great. But there are other ways to ground besides doing that.
Mm.
And I think one is when you realize that, when you actually feel that sort of, I think, calmness and the um, feeling of total Um, I surrender in the fact that I'm not saying surrender, but kind of integration that you feel when you're one with the earth, is very experiential. And that is what has been my experience and the experience of those I know and recommend this to, is like that we all know what it's like to feel the lack of connection. You know, we feel scattered all over the place,
Yeah.
and things like that. Yeah.
And what would be one of the most uh, felt sensations when you ground yourself, when you ground with the earth, either by just with your feet on the ground or, as you mentioned, in water? What would be one of the sensations that you can really appreciate whenever you have those moments that you can tell people, and why are they being benefit by that?
I think one is, well, physiologically, I think it's been studied well enough now to know that it lowers cortisol levels. So to be in connection with the earth. So I think that feeling of calmness,
Mhm,
um, is really one of the most obvious to me. That, and there is I want to say, a deepening of the breath. There is this
mhm,
real fluidity that comes, a calmness where breathing is just the normal natural rhythm. It's not labored, it's not forced.
yeah.
And there is an overall calmness that I think tends to almost like wash over you.
Mm.
If I use that kind of swimming analogy for you, David.
Yes, it is. It is because I'm when I'm swimming, I'm always connected more with my breath, connected more with all of the sensations of my body, of course, and also the mind. The mind starts having that flow of thoughts where you can let the toxicity go away. I mean, detect which thoughts are toxic, of course, and are just repetitive, and just let them go and focus on something that you can solve, focus on ideas, or just allow yourself to do affirmations of certain qualities or things that you want to attract in your life. For example, that's what I do now. I
Mm.
kind of uh, repeat an affirmation of something that I want to feel. For example, I am abundant, I am grateful, and through the lapse of swimming,
Mhm.
I just do that, and it feels really, really calming. It feels that you renovate yourself, and you, whenever that those moments I have in the pool swimming, I after I take a shower and after I'm doing work and things, I just notice that things happen in those moments that shifted something in my life. No, for example, someone needed to deposit some money and haven't done it. They did it in that time, in that period of time, or something that I have to fix, for example, a meeting, or knowing someone and just confirming a new client, whatever it is, happens in that time also. So.
I, I love that. I find that too. Like I just was waiting, I've been waiting on a few things and I went up to teach my class and I came back down and, and like three things had happened. And usually, I was like that idea, like a watched kettle never boils. It's like as you sit there and you wait, as you think about it, it doesn't happen. And you can actually feel like the energy is not moving
Mhm.
and is stuck. And that's, when we tap into that earth energy, I mean, the earth is forever evolving and changing.
Yeah. And I was just right. Well, I just wrote an article also about this phenomena of earthing, because I was just lured by the conversation that we had with you and Solara,
Mm-hmm.
and I figured it out that, well, I found out that the Earth natural frequency
Mm-hmm.
has a resonance that is extremely similar to the one of our heart. The
Mm-hmm.
Earth vibration is 7.83 hertz, and the heart vibration is, or the body's optimal frequency is around 7.5 hertz. So that's just really, really close. And that's how we connect with that frequency. And I think, if I think just about that, I think that it's a great phenomena that we as humans can take advantage when we are stressed, when we are confused, when we are overwhelmed, when we have those kind of days that you need just to rest and reset.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the best days to test this frequency and to allow the earth to heal you, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I'm correct, you're speaking about the Schumann frequency, I
Yeah,
think it's
human
called.
frequency.
And yeah, and actually, I was sitting with Tonka, my dog, the other day because he has some compressed vertebra in his spine. So he had gone for chiropractic and acupuncture, and we were sitting afterwards, and I was playing the Schumann frequency. Um, there's a lot of recordings out there, but just to take in that healing vibration of the earth, and when you think about the matrix between our cells is really, you know, is basically a liquid, and vibration travels through liquid,
Mm-hmm.
that we are directly influenced by that vibration of the earth. The other idea of earthing is actually, in contact with the electricity of the earth, the fact that the earth has a negative charge. And so a lot of research has been done around the fact that we no longer really have that direct connection to the earth, and we are no longer exposed to those negative ions, let's say by walking, things like by walking barefoot
Mm-hmm.
or spending time, as a kid, I grew up in rural areas, and I don't think I ever wore shoes. I was just like barefoot the entire summer. I'm not saying all year round, but in
Yeah,
the summer and spring especially. And how with rubber shoes and things like that, our connection to the earth is actually decreased by such a great extent.
yeah.
And what has that done to one of like our physiology? What has that done to our evolutionary processes?
Mm-hmm.
If we think of uniting ourselves with the evolutionary processes of the earth, and really we should be evolving, together.
Yeah, exactly. Not, yes, separated as we are, and more people are separating themselves from that connection, no? Because many times we um, take our screens, and we don't even notice that we are so much time in those screens that we start feeling that disconnection and that erratic rhythm of our heart, and the breathing of course, that is shallow, and all of those things start building up that cortisol and that stress. And that's why we many times have different kind of issues with people, because we are in a frequency that is toxic for ourselves, and many times we have that energy that is just reflected on other people, no?
Mhm, absolutely. And today I was having a conversation, and I mentioned that, animals have always, in general, when you look at wild animals especially, have always had this direct connection to the earth.
Hmm.
And when I was talking to my mom, and I said years ago, when people had dogs in the US, they lived outside. I mean, you didn't bring dogs inside. Dogs were outdoor animals. They had dog houses. They didn't come inside.
Yeah.
And there's a number of people out there now who really believe that some of the health issues, and I mean, I'm not saying it's the only one, because I think diet and all the other things that we talk about are really important, is like domesticated animals, dogs and cats, never really being outside as much anymore. And just like us, they spend the majority of their time indoors, never being in direct contact with the earth.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they get diseases like we get, thing.
Yes. That is also something that we can see in many of the animals, and as you mentioned, animals like birds, like they are still, of course, in contact and in nature, and you just listen to the singing of them and the different kind of rhythms that they sing also, because it is not the same rhythm or the same frequency of singing in the early morning
Mm.
and at in the afternoon or at evening sometimes, and you can recognize how they are just so attuned with the day, with the passing of the sun, of the light and the moon. All of those frequencies also are together, and they change the frequency of how they sing, you know.
Personally, I never realized it makes so much sense to me, but I don't know that I ever really thought about it. Like, I don't know enough about birds. I mean, other animals I know. And if you look at plants and herbs, I mean, I think they also do, because obviously they're governed by the sun and the moon, and you have, flowers that open at during the day when they're exposed to sunlight, and then when the moon comes in, they actually close at night. And or they release different natural phytochemicals, essential oils, depending on whether it's night or day or cycle of the earth. And so they're very attuned to that, to their environment.
Well, what do you know about inflammation and the effect that this phenomena of earthing could help in terms of inflammation levels, and how we mm, absorb much better minerals either in water or in the earth, and how that helps in terms of the inflammation process?
Well, some of the most recent scientific research has explored grounding and inflammation, particularly.
Mhm.
And specifically, I think the big ones have been inflammation and cardiovascular disease,
Mm.
have been two big ones, pain, mood. Um, and I mentioned that living matrix that lives, they sort of like that's between the cells. So obviously some of it is water, but it's like all the different salts and minerals that surround the cells, the fluid, the plasma, that contains so many, and that is actually um, a medium or a way that the cells communicate between each other, as you know, and between the way the cells travel. So it's also um, isn't actually, since it is a liquid, it actually is a conduit or a conductivity matrix for electricity. And if you think about the Earth's energy as having an electrical charge, um, and that charge could affect the charge that's in that matrix and either neutralize it or affect it in some way, thereby affecting um, the immune system and our body's defenses. It's similar in a way that matrix and that electrical conductivity is very similar to the way antioxidants protect cells from oxygen radicals. It's like this way of um, affecting the matrix and the ability of the cell surface and the natural defenses of the body. And if you think about the immune system, which is, where inflammation really happens. And inflammation we think of as bad. Inflammation is not necessarily bad. Chronic inflammation is actually not a good thing, but we need inflammation to combat infection immediately and stuff. But there are some small studies where they actually looked at having people ground and then did certain physiological tests like the ability of cells to move, specifically red blood cells, and the fact that they were less, I want to say there was less clumping and things like that. And the ability of grounding in a larger study being able to affect things like white blood cell counts
Hmm.
and pain levels. And so if we look at that, we could say, um, and I think experiential data where people actually talk about, you know, being in chronic pain and then using things like grounding mats
Hmm.
to actually decrease the pain that they were in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I also have research about, and I saw that also grounding improves the, well, by the absorption of these minerals and all of these negative ions that are buffering the system. Let's say the blood viscosity
Mm-hmm,
starts to be reduced, and that promotes much better circulation throughout the body. And that also helps to activate the vagus nerve, which plays this role in the controlling inflammation, chronic inflammation in particular, and the
mm-hmm,
immune responses. And well, whenever we are in this uh, experience of uh, calming ourselves and trying to lower our heart rate and start balancing that frequency, we also reduce the excessive production of many pro-inflammatory chemicals and molecules that are just being ready because we were faking a threat, let's say, just because we were too stressed. And when we are in those states, either because we have anxiety or because we have any kind of, let's say, hectic schedule, which today is just very, very common, your body is in a threat state.
mm-hmm,
Whether you perceive it or not, you are in that state. And that's why also the sleep um, patterns are altered for many people, and that's why we have also chronic sleep issues and chronic pain. That from there it goes to chronic pain and all of those
the
things.
thing. Yeah, I mean, one of the things you mentioned and I think of is, and we spoke about earlier, like I said, one of my physiological parameters, let's say the way I can feel a difference is the regulation of my breath. And if you think about, just that constant tension of that lack of oxygen
Hmm.
being present within the cells and that ability to transport oxygen, which is basically, energy and life to every cell, and what that does and the whole effect of stress itself. We both know that, stress is held in the body. It's also the way we position ourselves. We all know what it's like when we feel tense and stressed and how we hold ourselves and
Yeah.
that whole ability of like, the muscles tightening and gripping. And so that whole idea that that connection to the earth actually allows us to almost realize that the earth is there to support us, that we don't need to hold on and grip so strongly, that, gravity does work
Yeah, that's true.
and we can release and we can let go. And literally, like, we don't need to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, kind of thing, that we can put some of it down.
Hmm. Yeah, and let the earth help us to heal. You know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I was watching some images in one of the articles that I also used to write this article in Medium that showed the images of a person that had a wound in the on the feet near to the ankle, and it was an open wound that had long time that it wasn't able to be uh, closed, and the cicatrization process didn't even begun because the factors that were needed didn't have the nutrients, no?
Mm-hmm.
And this person start trying the effects of grounding and having sessions throughout 1 month. It was just 1 month, and in 1 month you could see the difference of the wound, and it was completely healed in just 1 month of. And it was not too much time. I think it was 10 to 15 minutes of this effect of grounding and the absorption of these minerals and ions through the earth. And that's the power of healing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how also before animals like dogs, cats, or any other wild animal heals when they have a wound, they look for plants, they smell plants, and they sometimes use some of those to
Mm-hmm.
heal themselves, or they just heal faster because they are in direct contact with the earth. You know?
Absolutely. I think they have this ability. One is they have this innate ability to just know their environments and are so in touch with their environments that they automatically are drawn to certain things. And when I began working with essential oils and I co-authored my book, it was really interesting because you would literally see an animal who would put its head over a diffuser and
Mm.
just breathe it in, kind of like intuitively knowing that they needed it. And if they didn't want it, they would leave the room. I mean, they weren't locked in, but it was always so intriguing to actually watch them gravitate. And we were like, and they know so clearly, oh, this is going to help me. And one of the things you shared is yes, I've also seen similar studies on wound healing, and I do believe that animals will go, whether it be, you'll watch animals that cover themselves with mud.
Mhm.
And years ago, people would actually go to, mud baths. And, I remember going to the Dead Sea and soaking myself in Dead Sea mud. And afterwards, you come back and any cuts on your hands and everything like heals so much faster. And you
Yeah.
just, and obviously they sell it. You can definitely buy it.
Yeah.
But
Yes, all of those things we now have them available to buy or to consume, but it's so much easier to do
Mhm.
it in real nature. And not that those things are not real, but you have
Yes.
easier access, no, to those things. And I was just thinking also with the my brother has 4 dogs, and whenever he bathes them, they immediately that they are just bathed and they are smelling nice and everything, they just go to the earth and they just roll back and forth, and they completely destroy the bath.
I think that that's so true. I think that part of our lack of connection to the earth, at least in many Western countries, is this whole idea of cleanliness. And I think we equate the earth with being dirty, and so everybody became very obsessed with like not having any dirt. And I'm not saying walk around with dirty hand, but that was necessarily bad. And I remember as a kid coming in and literally, we would take a bath at the end of the day and the water would be brown because we were so like dirty, like covered in dust and dirt. And I don't know that and I don't really think that that's necessarily is a bad thing. I think kids that supposedly spend a lot of time outside in nature actually have a stronger immune system, tend to have less allergies
Mhm.
and things like that. And I think it is, obviously they're exposed to all the elements, like because you're out in the sun and you have that vitamin D and things like that, but you're also spending so much time in direct contact with the earth
Yeah.
for hours and hours a day.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
also remember that when I was younger, when I was a child, also I played a lot in the earth, and I played marbles. We used to play marbles in the earth because we had like a circle, and you put all the marbles there, and you also play. I don't know. And I think you also have those games. Jojo, you have those.
mhm,
Yes, Jojo, and the other one, I don't know how to say it in English, but in Spanish is trompo. And those games were very popular here in Mexico, and you play them in the earth, and you got dirty, and we played all kinds of sports. And I also never have an allergy about anything. About anything. I could eat whatever I wanted, and I didn't have any problems, respiratory problems like asthma or something like that. Nothing happened. And my friends that lived in that neighborhood also were also healthy. So
mhm.
nowadays we see children and they have always one or two allergies, many of them, because they are not used to those kind of time and contact with earth, no?
Yeah, and absolutely, absolutely true. It was actually um at a function at my brother's school yesterday. My brother's a teacher, my sister-in-law, and part of it was taken in this room where I guess a lot of the kids eat, and they have this huge like poster of allergens and what I guess they're allowed to bring and what they're not allowed to bring
Mm.
because so many kids now have so many food allergies that I also don't remember that as a kid. I mean, I think there are other reasons for that too, but I don't remember having one friend that had a food allergy
Mm.
growing up.
Yeah, exactly. We are becoming weaker just because of that lack of contact. No?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how can we kind of summarize for people um, 3 or 5 effects of grounding, and how can they make it more practical in their lives?
I think that if we talk about practical benefits,
Hmm.
I think I think of a few things. I think of us regulating or normalizing our circadian rhythm, our
Hmm.
natural cycles, and therefore providing us with a better rhythm to sleep better. Because I think sleep is an integral part of healing, it's an integral part of health and wellness. And it's often overlooked and over and underestimated, I think. It's almost like you sleep because you have to sleep. And otherwise, you wouldn't be ever able to do everything you needed to do. So I think as far as the sleep goes, it's really vital. I think that its ability to help people to calm down and to get in touch with, their bodies and the ground itself
Mhm.
has a profound effect in stress reduction and just your connection to the earth. I think that we need that connection and we need that ability to tap into that ability of the earth. to be able to, like you said, quiet our thoughts. I think that that experience of nature and being surrounded by nature is like, it also inspires like that whole, I think the whole idea of wonder and that aspect. If you go outside and you actually experience nature, it's like, it's miraculous. And I think we need to maintain that kind of outlook of like a child looks at something for the first time, they have that real look of wonder.
Yeah.
And it's really great for us to look at life like that. And we get, because we get bogged down and preoccupied with all the details
Yeah.
of life. So I think that as far as stress reduction and sleep, and then the ability of the earth to regulate other body systems, you know, like our immune system and inflammation. And to me, you know, standing on the ground for a certain amount of time a day, or even investing in a grounding mat if you wanted to do that.
Mhm.
Um, you know, for let's say start out with, you know, 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day. I mean, if you want to combine, you could meditate on the ground, you know, take a cushion and actually sit outside, or, you know, do a walking meditation.
Mhm.
Um, oh, my old favorite was always like do walking beach meditations. And then,
Mm.
you know, you have the ocean, you have the water, and you have the ground, and you're meditating all at the same time.
Well, that would be amazing if people have a close beach and they can do that. That
Hmm.
would be the best thing that they can do. And having that access to nature, I think that they should take advantage of that and synchronize themselves and connect themselves with the earth. Well, I think we have still some things to talk about, so
Hmm.
probably we will have another part of these grounding effects, and we can discuss in that second episode how grounding helps in terms of each organ and
Hmm.
the chronic diseases probably that it can heal. No. Uh,
Absolutely. I just for people, you know, I think one of the easiest things you can do, especially, you know, sooner rather than later, I think any practice which you can do where you actually get your feet on the ground again and not in shoes, you know, even walking around barefoot is a lot better, especially if your floors are made with natural materials, like either stone or wood, then at least get exposed that way. And I like practices such as like Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, because you actually practice barefoot.
yeah.
Um, so you get that connection of feeling, you know, of on the earth. I mean, if you can practice outside, even better. I mean, I know here there are parks where people practice like, you know, martial arts and Tai Chi and Qigong. And so if that's available, that might be an option just to get outside and get connected to the ground.
Yeah. Thank you, Jan. Thank you.
Oh, oh, thank you, David.
And thank you everyone for listening and tuning in into this episode. Of course, you know that I always encourage you to give us questions, suggestions, and new topics to discuss in this podcast or new guest that you want me to interview. And we will be with Jan in a future episode, so stay tuned also for this second part. Thank you everyone and have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.